Hi, I'm Jo Sanderson, and my husband Sandy's got Huntington's disease.
Kia ora, my name is Liz Hogan and I'm the Client Services Manager at MS Waikato Trust. MS Waikato Trust is a not-for-profit organisation that supports people in the Greater Waikato area who are affected by Huntington's disease and multiple sclerosis. Huntington's disease, or HD, is a rare hereditary condition that causes the progressive breakdown of nerve cells in the brain. It impacts a person physically, cognitively and emotionally. Because HD is caused by a dominant gene, biological children of someone with the disease have a 50% chance of inheriting it, and if they carry the gene, they will eventually develop symptoms. From the onset of symptoms to end of life is typically 15 to 20 years, with continual changes as the condition progresses. So Jo, can you tell me about when your husband was first diagnosed and how both of you responded to the news?
Yeah, he actually got diagnosed about 4 years ago, but prior to that, about 12 years ago, he'd been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and we could never understand that diagnosis because his memory was perfect, and to us he just didn't fit the bill with Alzheimer's. So when we got the HD diagnosis, it was almost a relief because everything fitted into what he'd been experiencing. So as much as it was a shock, it was kind of a relief, but then we started to learn more about it, realising the hereditary aspect, and both of Sandy's parents had passed away and we weren't aware of any Huntingtons in the family. So yeah, it was that side of things was quite big for us to handle.
Okay. So what were some of your biggest challenges that you've faced as his primary carer, Jo?
The biggest thing probably is the way that he just became another person. He was not the man that I'd married, and until we found out it was Huntington's, I had blamed myself for his change, that it was me, that he wasn't. I blame myself for everything. The reason why we weren't affectionate anymore, and that he was quite argumentative. I just kept thinking, well, it's me, I've done this or I've done that. So that's probably been the hardest thing, really, to see a man that you fall in love with and marry just change in front of your eyes and you don't know why.
So his personality became quite...
Yeah, his personality was completely different, and his behaviour with things, reactions to things, everything just started changing.
It must have been really tough.
It was just because I didn't know and understand, I just kept blaming myself. It was all my fault.
So how has Huntington's disease changed your day-to-day life as a carer, the practical day-to-day stuff?
Okay, well, when Sandy was here, I found I was needing to be here because I couldn't leave the house for long because he tended to do things that he knew he wasn't allowed to do. Like there was rules. He wasn't to climb ladders, he wasn't to use power tools, but invariably I'd come back after 1 hour and hello, he's either done this or done that, and I got to the point where I was just too scared to leave because I couldn't trust that he wouldn't be making sensible decisions on things, and that became very difficult because it didn't allow me to go and do things like I was playing bowls, and I couldn't play bowls anymore because that was like a whole morning away. So there was definitely things like that I couldn't do, and but on the plus side, I created my food forest that I've got out there now, and that would not have happened if I had been just working or just literally been home with Sandy, because we would have been doing other things. So, you know, there is a good out of bad.
So what solutions did you find for when you actually had to go out?
Okay.
The times you had to go?
Yeah, okay. If it was for a longer period, then I would get a friend to come in and check. Okay. Yeah, but I tended to just not do anything. That was my choice, really. I didn't go out very often. But if I had to, then yes, a friend would come in and sit.
But I love what I'm hearing, that you use quite a negative situation of being confined to your home to care and keep an eye on Sandy, into doing something beautiful and something for yourself.
Exactly.
So I guess that probably was helpful for your well-being and mental health.
Oh, absolutely. The garden has saved me because I just could go out into the garden knowing he was just in the lounge, and I could just get my hands in the soil and ground myself and it was just healing. It really was. And now I've got this amazing permaculture food forest that is just giving and giving, and it's incredible. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's very cool.
Yeah.
So we touched on this a little bit, but with your relationship with Sandy, but how has that changed for you over time?
Yeah, it's really changed. When we were first married, for the first probably 10 years, we were just a very, very affectionate couple. We were really happy. And then slowly, Sandy just started pulling away, and I could not understand what it was. And the things go through your mind like, has he got someone else somewhere? You know, he doesn't want me. And that was probably the hardest thing. It was that physical and emotional distance. I really felt like I was just a flatmate rather than a wife. Yeah, it was terrible. From what we were, you know, we were the couple that would be so silly. We'd be sitting on the couch holding hands watching TV. We always were touching each other wherever we were. We worked together most of the time. We were home together, and suddenly this happened, and it was really, it was very hard.
So was there, if you don't mind me asking, was there a point where you thought you might not stay in the marriage?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He one day, yes, definitely. Yeah.
So what kept you?
I guess it was the nurturing side of me. I thought, if I'm not here, how's he going to be able to, he's not going to be able to function without me. That's how I felt. Yeah.
Well, that's huge, and that's a huge call to make that decision that it is a marriage and a commitment, and you'll stay.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah. So I guess going on from that, who supported you? Who helped you? Professionals, friends, family? Where did you get your support?
You and your group of team were incredible. I mean, you initially you phoned me every week, you visited me, and I just felt you were there if I did need to reach out, which I did do sometimes. I had friends that were really supportive, and my family, and so no, I never felt that I was on my own. I have to be honest. I always felt that there was a great network of help if I needed it.
So I guess saying to other people to reach out to your local organisations and the people, professionals, as well as your friends, reach out for help and accept that support.
You do. You have to learn to be vulnerable, and that's been my hardest thing, because I hate asking for help, but there are times where everything just seems so humongous in your head, you just have to share it. And then often when you have shared it, you think, oh, well, actually, it wasn't quite that bad, but at the time, it's huge.
So, Jo, I was wondering how this has affected your friendships and Sandy's friendships.
Yeah, it certainly does have an impact. I was lucky that my friends were really supportive, but there were times where I know they got a little bit frustrated because I would say no often to doing things with them. And so certainly there were times where I know that they would rather have me just probably left Sandy for a while and he'll be all right, sort of thing. And I know with Sandy's friends, the ones that used to visit him, it is hard coming now, and they're not coming as often, which I totally understand why, because you don't go in and have the conversation that you would have once had with him. He's more, he's just changed with having conversations with people. It's a lot about himself, and I guess that's a natural progression where his friends have just not come very often.
Do you think too that sometimes many families with HD, they tell me that the person with HD behaves differently with their close loved one, their partner, than they do with other people. So there were the times when you wondered if people actually maybe believed what was going on, or talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. Look, that's it. I often think that no one does believe what you go through, because when somebody else came into the house or comes to visit Sandy, he's a totally different person. He doesn't really get angry or frustrated absolutely. And I would say what he was doing, speaking the way he'd do it to me, and yet people would think, oh no, I haven't seen that side of him. Or my children will visit and say, oh no, Mum, he's great, he's really happy and he wanted to do this. And here I had been saying, oh look, he's really grumpy today, So absolutely, he was like Jekyll and Hyde often with people against me.
So I guess some context around that is maybe now's a good time to just talk about the transition from where he is now, that he's not living at home at the moment.
Right.
And can we talk a little bit about that?
Sure, okay. Yep, so it's 2.5 years ago now that he went into care, and that eventuated from the advice that I had from you and other health professionals that with Huntington's patients, if you can get them into full-time care earlier, it's better in the long run. And I had huge guilt feelings. I felt like I'd failed as his carer, that I wasn't doing what I'd set out to do as his wife, but I can look back now and realise that he's made his home there, and he's got involved with the men's shed in Whirianga, and they've been absolutely incredible with him, and he loves it, and he's involved with rummy cub groups that he's playing with within the care unit, and they're just so great with him. So I know it's been good. And last September he came home for a scheduled weekend, and he asked to go back. He couldn't handle being out of his routine and out of his environment, and I had to take him back the next morning, so he didn't even last the weekend, and he's told me he will never come home again. And so I know now that is his home in Whirianga.
That must have been really hard.
Oh, it just broke me. That was probably the last thing that I couldn't imagine happening, that he wouldn't want to come back home.
I guess one thing worth noting it's always a hard decision at what point does someone go into care, because in my experience, which is with 20 years now, people do need that higher level of care at some point in their journey. Really hard to decide when, but we do say sooner is better than later, where someone can just get into the routines, get into enjoying the place before they become sort of compromised or can't make good decisions. And someone with HD, they thrive under a real routine, and healthcare providers give that routine, where they know it's going to happen at any given time on any given day, and it's the same every day. And that is really helpful for a person.
It is. And I think another big plus is the staff got to know him when he had a glimpse of his old self, as now, if he had moved in now, they would have just seen somebody that just gets angry so quickly and but they've met that Sandy, that little bit of Sandy that was so much different 2.5 years ago. And so that to me is lovely as well, that they can see what he used to be like.
So some real positives.
Yeah,
there,
it
actually.
is.
Yep. And speaking of the positives, moments of joy or connection that stand out for you.
Okay, right. It's probably the little things, and this always makes me cry. But so last weekend when I was there, Sandy lifted out a pocket knife that he'd actually made years and years ago, because his pocket knife that he always had from England in his pocket got stolen by one of his students at school, and he was gutted. So he made this beautiful pocket knife out of mahogany and turned all the tiny little bits of aluminium from a rod. Anyway, I made a comment to him a while ago how I absolutely loved his pocket knife, and last week when I got there, he said to me he said, I want you to have this because I know you love it. Now that to me was just so beautiful, and you can feel one side of it's all smooth, where he's obviously been his thumb that's rubbed it smooth, and the other side's more rough.
Oh yes.
I know, so that's all the years that he's used that, and so he had enough left in him to know that I love this and he wanted me to have this. So there's little things like that, and then he'll text sometimes and he'll thank me for, thank you. He'll thank me for everything that I've done that day, and that's just so lovely to see, and it just kind of makes everything, when you know he's appreciated something, it's just so lovely. So yeah, that's probably sometimes those little glimmers of really caringness suddenly come out, and then they're just gone. So you've just got to hang on. So that pocket knife's going to be, I'm hanging precious. On. It is.
So
it is.
Precious.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. That's really lovely. What do you wish more people understood about Huntington's disease and about caregiving?
Okay, so what I would love people to understand is if there's a known HD anywhere in the family, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to not talk about, because if Sandy and I had known 12 years ago that it was Huntington's and not Alzheimer's, our whole lives would have made another direction, because his decision making was severely compromised way back, but we didn't realise, and we've made some really bad mistakes financially with things we've done. And I think the other thing too is, if you understand that it's a mental, at least not a mental illness, a brain illness as such that you can't see, a neurological one, you know, it's nothing to be ashamed of, and it's just something that needs to be talked about and more people need to know.
So Jo, we know with HD that people can get really fixated on certain things. Is that something that's happened with Sandy?
Oh, absolutely. He will have one thing and it will loop in his mind and it will be there for days. And you carry on with your life for days, and then suddenly this thing that's still so in his head, he will just talk about it, but you don't know what he's on about. And you have to be so careful how you actually react to what he said, because you can't say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. You have to actually start being very cryptic about thinking and asking vague little questions, and then suddenly think, oh, he's talking about something that happened last week. And so, yeah, absolutely. And if he's struck a problem with something, that problem will not go at all. It's in his head and it is consuming him. And sometimes you can't even actually have a decent conversation about something else because his mind is still on that one little thing. So absolutely, he gets totally narrow visioned and his mind is just on that one thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So how does that resolve? Like, how does he move on from that, do you think?
He doesn't move on until it's actually resolved. Like I'm just trying to think of an example. I bought a car last year, a new car, and it broke down. And I was stranded on the Napier Thames Highway in the rain with no cell phone coverage. It was a nightmare. Anyway, when I got back from my few days away, I told Sandy the car had broken down, and it really disturbed him. But he didn't say to me anything. He just went, oh. But this had obviously been going on and on and on in his mind. And then about 4 days later, I got this huge long text with all the mechanical issues that it probably could be.
Wow.
Now, he had been trying to work out why would have that car, brand new car, broken down with what I told him had happened. And once that was out, and that's what he decided was the issue with the car, he moved on. And so this is what happens. He will try to resolve that issue, and it tends to stay with him until he's resolved it one way or the other.
Right.
Yeah. He doesn't just sweep it under the mat.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Jo, we know that with Huntington's that people's personalities and behaviours change. So was Sandy ever physically abusive towards you? Were you ever worried?
No, he would get verbally abusive and he would throw things, but not at me. So no, I never have ever felt that he would ever injure me. So no, definitely not. But in his frustration, he will throw things, and I've just got to, I've learned, I remember you telling me a long time ago, don't ever argue or question what they're doing. If it's something that isn't putting him in danger, let it go. And if he says things, I've learned to not take them personally, because I used to get so hurt with things he'd say, but now I let them go because I know that's not him talking, it's the Huntington's brain talking. And when he does throw things, I don't comment, or I try not to, because that could result in a big escalation of his anger. So yeah, I've never had him physically be a problem. Yeah.
And that's learning that strategy of not arguing or debating the small stuff. So if you were at risk or he was at risk, absolutely. Or if it's something really important like taking medication, it's worth pushing back on. But most things aren't worth arguing about. Isn't. And it just escalates the person with HD and turns out pretty badly
I've
for
learned,
everyone.
because I do know that in the past I can't keep my mouth shut. I'd always have to have the last word, but now I don't. I let sometimes things are ludicrous what he says, but what does it matter? If he thinks that thing is a whatever, what does it matter? So I just say, oh, okay. And that's how I've learned. Yeah.
That's really hard. But once you master that I'm sure that once you made that change in yourself, because he can't make the change, that everything improved.
Oh, massively. Absolutely. And that's what I tell everybody that visits him. Don't question anything he says, just agree if it's not an issue. And so no, definitely that's one of the big things that you taught me early on, and I'm very grateful.
So Jo, what do you wish more people understood about Huntington's disease and about caregiving?
Right. Certainly, I'll talk about caregiving first. It is such a hard, never-ending job. You're just on the go all the time, and you just have to look after yourself to be able to care. I mean, what you always saying to me, you've got to care about the carer, and it's just so true, because if your bottle's empty, you've got nothing to give, and so you've just got to make sure that you actually can somehow have a break and just get your battery recharged. And as far as HD's concerned, it needs to be spoken more of. So many people are ashamed or embarrassed to talk about it, but with the hereditary factor, it's really important that it's spoken about and not talked from family generation to generation.
Yeah, so you've touched on the family factor. So any person who is positive for HD, a biological child has a 50% chance of, as we said at the beginning, of getting that disease. There are people who don't always want to find out, and that is their personal choice. But we need to have some care around that, because, for example, if, say, a mother is from a family with HD in it and doesn't want to know their status and has children, if one of those children goes and finds out they're positive, then in that moment the mother will also know. So there's a lot of care around how we go through that process of who wants to know, who doesn't, and what to do with that. And there's quite a robust process of counselling and whatnot. That's right. However, if a person is gene negative and doesn't carry the gene, then it won't be passed on to their family. So there is an end point and a full stop in this disease.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're very good at this now. You've been doing it a long time. What advice would you give to someone new who's coming into this, finding out there's HD in their family or with their loved one? What in particular would you have wanted to know at the beginning?
I went onto YouTube and found as many nice videos as I could to just learn more about it and see families dealing with it, and get involved with your local HD whatever you call it, your group, support organisation, because that's really important to get that support going, the support networks. And I think just communicate with people, let people know, don't hide away, and become vulnerable. You know, people never come to me and say, oh, I bet you find your days are so lonely. You know, they'll make something like, oh, well, you can go and do this now. And it's not always about that. Every day I look around and I see things that Sandy and I would have done, or I see something that he's made, or I see something that we would do together, and it's there the whole time. You never ever get away from it. And I think you need to tell people that I am really lonely at times. I'm not saying that I'm to the point where I'm not getting on because I'm so lonely, but I am lonely. There are so many things that I wished I could share with someone. I have got no one to talk to 9 times out of 10 during the day, and you don't want to always have to ring your children just to tell them something little, but when you've got a partner there, you just would communicate. So yeah, I think it's learning to be vulnerable and asking for help if you need it is another big thing.
And I think too, what you're talking about there, Jo, is grief and loss.
Cool, it is.
Very much so.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess another avenue for support too, in the Waikato, we're very lucky with our neurological department here and the HD clinic, an HD specialist nurse and doctors that are really interested in, neurologists that are really interested in HD. So they're part of the support as well. So thank you. That's amazing. I think that will really help other people.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks.
And what you've done for Sandy has been incredible. He's very lucky.
Thank you. Yes. Oh, that's great. Thanks, Liz.